Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to do a recap and review of the film The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Of course, this is the film based on a chapter from Bram Stoker's Dracula called The Captain's Log, which details some of the events that occur in the story while Dracula is aboard a ship called the Demeter on his way to London from Romania. So let's get to the recap. It starts off in August of 1897 when the ship, called the Demeter, washes ashore in England. Among the wreckage, a captain's log is found by the police. 4 weeks earlier, the Demeter makes port in Varna, Bulgaria, picking up cargo to transport to London. The cargo, consisting of multiple large wooden crates, is transported by locals from Romania who refuse to help load the cargo and who wish the crew good luck. A man named Clemens, who's a doctor, overhears that the ship is looking for crew members. He attempts to convince the crew that he would be a valuable crew member because of his medical skills and education in astronomy at Cambridge. He's initially rejected by the first mate, Wojciech, but soon after saved the captain's grandson, Toby, from being crushed by some cargo that almost fell on him. And Captain Elliot is impressed and invites Clemens to join the crew. Later, while the boat's in the Aegean Sea, Clemens and crewmate Olgarin see a mysterious figure in the fog on deck. Later, one of the crates falls and breaks open in the cargo hold, which Clemens investigates. And when he does, he finds a woman buried in dirt inside. Seeing that she's barely alive, he performs blood transfusions on her to help her fight against a seeming infection. The following night, all of the animals aboard the ship, which were there for food purposes, are killed. The mysterious stowaway, whose name is Anna, wakes up and warns Clemens about a local monster in her village named Dracula, who she was bound to by her village. Crewmen are slowly killed over the following nights while on watch, with Olgarin being the only one to survive the attack. One night he breaks free from being tied down to a table somewhere on the ship and hunts down Toby, whom he traps inside the captain's quarters with Dracula. As the crew attempts to save him, Toby is bitten by Dracula. The next morning, the now vampiric Olgarin bursts into flames as the sun rises because he's been tied to the mast where the crew put him to keep him from hurting anyone else, not knowing what would happen. Toby eventually dies as well from his wounds and also bursts into flames after lurching from his death plank on deck when the captain removes his shroud because he's convinced that he's still alive and moving as the men are preparing to dump his body in the sea. The remaining crew members decide to attempt to drown Dracula by sinking the ship while he's aboard to prevent him from wreaking havoc in London. Captain Elliot and Wojciech are killed before Anna manages to crush Dracula with a part of the mast while she and Clemens are basically hunting him on the ship. Anna and Clemens then jump ship thinking Dracula is doomed. Dracula, however, manages to break free and fly to London before the Demeter washes ashore. Anna reveals that she's turning into a vampire as a result of her infection while she and Clemens are floating to land on debris of the ship, and that Clemens's blood transfusions were only delaying her transformation. Not wanting to become a monster like Dracula, Anna willingly immolates herself in the sunlight as they drift towards the shore. After making it to London, Clemens sees Dracula disguised as a human and vows to hunt him down. So that's a very basic breakdown of the major story points of the plot. There's other stuff that happens that you'd see if you see the movie. As for me, I like this movie okay. I don't think it was a bad movie. The performances are solid. It's very atmospheric, but it isn't as tense as it could have been during the parts of the movie where, okay, they know something's going on, but they don't know what it is, and they're trying to figure it out. And then they know what it is, and they just kind of roll with the punches almost, even though they're displeased about what's happening. They don't really take any action. They just kind of keep letting stuff happen until like the end. So I thought that was weird. And, I never read Bram Stoker's Dracula because I'm a nudge. So I don't know how closely to that one chapter this script adheres. And it may just be that the movie is a product of a very faithful translation, as it were, of the chapter of the book into a screenplay. So it's possible that the powers that be aren't to blame for that. Although, when you're working with a work that you're trying to transform from the page to the screen, you may have to embellish it to make it not lack intensity if the words on the original page happen to lack intensity. So even if it's the original prose that's not intense, enough to be compelling, why didn't they punch it up? I mean, I guess you don't want to, you know, rework Stoker necessarily, but then maybe don't make the movie. I don't know. Other problems I had with it, and again, this may just be what they were working with, but in every 24-hour day while they're on the Aegean Sea trying to get to London, there are 12 hours of daylight. So once they know what they're dealing with, I, it seemed to me in the movie that they didn't try to go after him while he was unable to go on deck and unable to risk exposure to the sunlight aggressively enough. Like they kind of do. They talk about it. They do a cursory kind of search and they can't find him. So the situation drags on. Like I didn't understand that. It seemed to me like they just let the situation continue on longer than it should have, when they could have really hunkered down in one of the early days and just took care of it, you know? And once they realize what's happening and that, they're all getting picked off one by one, why the hell didn't they all get on the lifeboats and get off the boat and set it on fire? Like there's a part where the cook tries to get off the boat in a lifeboat and Dracula ends up flying from the ship to the lifeboat and killing him, but like they don't even mention it. They never at any point say, "Hey, why don't we light the boat on fire and get off and see what happens?" Some of them might have survived. If they're all in boats rowing to the shore, he might not have been able to kill them all before they got to shore. I don't know. Maybe it would have taken too long. I don't know. But maybe if they lit the boat on fire during the day, like maybe like, I mean, they wanted to get to shore with their cargo. They wanted to get paid, but like he's going to kill you all. Why don't you abandon ship during the day and light the thing on fire? He can't come after you. Like, why they don't do that, I don't know. Another thing I found super annoying about the movie is that the woman Anna is very familiar with Dracula. She was given over to him as a food source by her village after he'd spent years and years and years terrorizing her village. So she knows everything about him. And we know this because eventually she discloses everything she knows about him. The problem is she does it piecemeal fashion, in drips and drabs over the course of the movie. So what happens is something will happen and someone on the crew will say, "Well, we should do this." And she'll go, "No, you can't do that because this, that, and the other thing. And that's why he did X." And it's like, well, where was that information before he did this last thing? Like, you know what he is, you know how he operates. Why aren't you laying it all out for us? Why didn't you call a meeting and lay it all out for us? Everything you know. Nope. Just when things happen, she goes, "Oh, yeah, that's something he does. Oh, yeah, that's because he's this way. And that's why that's happening." And it's so dumb that at one point, when they finally decide, all right, we're going to stalk this guy at night for some reason, I guess because that's the only time he comes out and they couldn't find him. So anyway, they're going to go up against him at night because they know he's going to come out. And at one point in the proceedings, they're surprised to discover that he has wings and can fly. But she knew that. I mean, she doesn't say she knew that, but she knew everything the hell else about him. And she's familiar with him for years. Over the course of years, she's been familiar with him and what he does and what he is. She didn't tell these poor bastards he could fly. That's kind of important. Doesn't tell him. They figure it out as it's happening, as he's picking them up. He's got wings. Well, no shit. She knew that. She doesn't tell you that, though. Never told them. So I just thought that was dumb. Like, why isn't she disclosing everything? It just comes out, like I said, in drips and drabs, and to the point where she doesn't tell them he can fly, which is an important detail, one would think. So that stuff kind of annoyed me. You know, the parts where he's actually stalking people are creepy. The parts where he kills people are crazy. The parts where the people catch on fire is crazy. And I liked the end where, Clemens is in London and he sees Dracula disguised as a human and he's giving kind of a voiceover and he says, I vow to hunt him down. I'm going to kill him, blah, 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 send it back to hell. So they left it, where they could make another movie about Clemens going up against Dracula. So that might be cool. And certainly the special effects were great in this, the makeup and all that stuff, or CGI, whatever they did. I know some of it was practical effects, for Dracula. That was good. But I thought this movie was going to be much creepier than it was, much more intense than it was, because, you've got this creature hunting people down on a confined space where they can't get away. And I just thought they were really going to convey this feeling of foreboding through the whole movie. Like, this thing is going to kill these people. And it just didn't, it wasn't there. It was never there for some reason. And I think the movie would have been a lot better than it is if they had managed to punch that aspect of it up. But, it's not a bad movie. It's a good movie. It has some thrills and chills, but a lot of stuff doesn't make sense at the same time. And it's a little on the underwhelming side in terms of the intensity level that should be there for a movie where Dracula is hunting people on a ship in the middle of the ocean. Like I said, I haven't read, Stoker's book. Maybe it comes off better on the page in his original prose. I don't know. I might have to read at least that chapter to find out. I think it's worth a watch, but I wouldn't, run right out to the theater to see it. So that's really it. I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back with another video soon. Until then, I wish you peace and long life.